All right, sir. Senator Miller, in 17 years of service, what have you done to help Peachtree Corners?
Well, I've represented Peachtree Corners for the past 6 years, but I guess the major thing would be is working with Tom Rice to give people the opportunity to vote on whether it be a Peachtree Corner city. That's probably the major thing, I guess. The second thing, I guess, what I've tried to do is every time I see Debbie Mason, it costs me at least $500 because I'm sponsoring this or sponsoring that.
I know the feeling.
But I think the main thing is, in working with the Gwinnett delegation, I've had the opportunity to work a lot with Alvin Wilbanks in education, and Mary Kay, and you know, he's probably the dean of superintendents in this state. You've had a tremendous track record, you know, urban school district of the year several times, and education and has been the thing I've worked on, career opportunities, that kind of thing, besides everybody going to a 4-year college. And so that affects people everywhere, because I believe probably about 35% of our kids ought to be going to a 4-year college. We need more technical training, and we need to have people get jobs, because that's what we've done in Georgia. That's why we've been rated #1 by site selection, and that's probably Nathan Deal's legacy, that in criminal justice. So I've been involved in a lot of those things, so thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. And we'll just keep going. When I ask you a question, you'll get the full minute. If you go over a few seconds, it's no big deal. Nobody's going to complain on the other side. All right. Back to House District 95. This will be a question for Mr. Lowe, and Mr. Hilton, you'll have 30 seconds to respond. The question is, do you agree or disagree with the governor vetoing the Religious Liberty Bill and the Campus Carry Bill? Based on what you know on each bill now, would you vote yes or no on each of these bills if they are brought up in the next legislative session?
It's a great question, and it's a question that I get asked often, actually. I'm very disappointed with the veto, very disappointed veto. In fact, I believe it was a slap in Georgia's face as far as the state of Georgia is similar protected people of faith and its encroachment of government. At the end of the day, you're forcing them to violate their own beliefs and saying that this is not something they should do. So at the end of the day, I firmly believe and will address in the next coming legislation session, and believe it or not, I've always stood firm on this particular issue. In fact, I believe Scotty here actually took it off his website after Governor Deal removed it or vetoed it. I certainly didn't. I stood firm, and I will continue to stand firm on that veto. He should never have done it. I believe it's a slap in the face of religious people in Georgia.
Mr. Hilton, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up religious freedom for you in 30 seconds, so here we go.
Yeah.
I won't respond to... so religious freedom, when it started out, it was the Pastor Protection Act. I would have supported that. The Pastor Protection Act protected pastors. Language was added that you know, people weren't comfortable with. It then lost public support. I would craft a bill in 2016. We need equality for everyone, whether you have religious freedoms or whether you're on the other side. And so I would craft legislation that does not discriminate against anyone, but at the same time allows people to have their religious freedoms, to address campus carry. Your constitutional rights should not stop on a campus. The way the bill was written, you're 21 or older, you have a license to carry already, and I'm out of time. I would have voted in favor of campus carry.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. All right, next question will be for City Council Post 2. And, you know, that's what lawyers do. They change the rules halfway through. So this question is an important question. They're all important, don't get me wrong, but this is particularly for City Council, so both of you will get a minute to answer this question in your own way. Where do you stand on the proposed bridge across Peachtree Parkway? Specifically, are you in favor of it, and what are your thoughts on this particular design? Mr. Pete's opportunity to go first.
Thank you very much. The bridge, it's very controversial, and
hence the 1 minute.
It's the 1 minute. It's very important to get the communications both from the community to the city and from the city to the community. I think more communication needs to happen. What I want to do is find out what Post 2 wants to do and be able to take that to the city council. So I need to find out from you. There are several polls out there. There's polls for it. There are polls against it. I need to find out what you, the residents of Post 2, want for that and which design. There are several designs out there. There are polls that have looked at the different designs, the city has talked about having additional meetings, and as soon as we can have those additional meetings, we'll get more communication. So that's where I am on it, on the bridge.
Mr. Chris, 1 minute.
Thank you. A few weeks ago, Stephen said that if we held a vote today, he'd vote in favor of the bridge. If we had a vote today, I'd say, time out, what's the hurry? And there are 3 things that I would need to see done before I would be ready to vote either for or against a bridge. First of all, we need more community input. There are lots of people out there who feel they haven't had a chance to be heard about this bridge. This is a major infrastructure change to our city, and we need to listen to folks, and I encourage the City Council to hold more sessions. Second, one of the reasons, not the only reason, for a bridge or any type of crossing is the town center development. That needs to get underway. We need to break ground. We need to be moving forward on that project before we consider a bridge. And third, what I would need before I would be ready to vote, I would need to see the cost of the bridge in a prioritized list of all the things we could be spending that money on. Every time you spend $1, you have an opportunity cost for what you're not spending that dollar on. And when I hear from folks, there are lots of other things in transportation that we could be spending money on here in Peachtree Corners. So those are the 3 things Eric would need before I'd be ready to vote.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the accommodation on that change. Senator Miller, how did your position as chairman of the Higher Education Committee affect your decision to vote against campus carry?
I think that probably entered into it. I will tell you, I don't think there's a university president of the state that really was in favor of it. Governor Deal's veto message was interesting, that he didn't find a compelling reason to support the bill. I think in talking with people, it seemed to me that most parents, when they send their 18, 19-year-old to college, are not real comfortable with guns on campuses. I'm not going to go back to Madison and Jefferson as the governor did and talked about that, where they didn't think it was a good idea, because I think
It was
we live
quite
in
a long
different
time ago, right?
Yeah, we live in a different time, and Tom Rice was there, but I wasn't. But
Ouch!
but I will say this to you: for me, it was not a.
It never ends, Mr. Rice. It never ends.
For me, it was not a difficult vote to vote against it, because I was 21 years old. I had fraternity brothers who were 21 years old. I know what happens with 21-year-olds, and in this state, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to get a concealed permit. You have to be able to do a fingerprint and sign your name on an application. There's no mandatory training. There's no anything. And so at the end of the day, I felt that the people that I represented, in fact, I guess about 80% of the people in the state, according to polls, but the people I represented were not real comfortable with it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Back to House District 95. This question will be for Mr. Hilton, I believe. All right. What are you going to do for the southern side of Peachtree Corners as far as helping the city improve buildings and infrastructure? This is for Jay or Scott. I think this question could easily be posed for City Council or for House District 95, but it's been posed to you.
All right, let's do it. You know, yeah, I talk about walking 1,200 houses. One of my favorite areas to walk is what's over considered post 3 or post 1, I guess, Lockridge Forest and that area over there on that side of the city. You know, I love the organization that we have called Bridges within Peachtree Corners, the effort to try to connect all parts of Peachtree Corners. We live in an absolutely beautiful community. We need to continue that. One of the biggest things that I love that Mayor Mason is doing right now, while I'm in State House, I will be a big fan of, is developing the business incubator. There is no reason all of Peachtree Corners should not have good quality jobs. You know, the jobs ought to stay here. We've got the talent, we've got the housing, we've got Tech Park, we've got everything we need. We need to build on that infrastructure. We need to keep Alpharetta and other areas, Roswell, from taking our jobs. And for me, I think that then helps lead into a better economy, better infrastructure, and you know, that's just one of those things that the business incubator I would help champion as your State House representative.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. 30 seconds.
I think you're specifically talking about the south side of Peachtree Corners, and you certainly want to protect and defend that side. But if you really think about what truly can affect someone's life daily, is getting the Georgia fair tax. Let's get the Georgia fair tax, put some money in your pocket, and let's also get rid of the state ad valorem tax. Those are 2 things that can help people live on the south side of Peachtree Corners and all of Georgia. So if you think about doing something like that, what that's going to do is going to put money in your pocket. It's going to bring jobs to the community, and that's certainly what the Bridges is all about.
All right, thank you, sir. Next question will be for City Council, Post 2. Mr. Chris, you are up. The current city council seems to have reached out to people of like minds as they have governed for the past 4 years. Do you have any plans to widen that circle and seek input from citizens that have opposing points of view?
Jim, first I'd like to give 30 seconds to Tom Rice to respond to the aspersions on his character by Mr. Senator
It's
Miller.
nothing Mr. Rice hasn't heard before, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Let's talk about communication in the city. One of the things I've learned in talking to folks is that the city staff, the city council don't have a monopoly on good ideas. We have lots of citizens out there with diverse backgrounds who have some great ideas about how to improve the quality of life and how to build connections across our city. So I think getting citizen input is critical. In terms of sharing ideas and collecting that input, I'd like to take a page out of the city of Sandy Springs. They, for every rezoning, require that the property developer hold 2 community meetings before they go before the planning commission. One of those meetings has to be held in the district where the development is going to be, and the second has to be held at the city of Sandy Springs City Hall as a larger forum. So I think that's something where that's a good idea from another city, where we could adopt that here in the city of Peachtree Corners as a way to make sure that citizens have a chance to give their input.
Mr. Pete, 30 seconds.
Okay, to start with, I have an engineering background which is different than the rest of the city council, so I will start to bring some differences in right there. The other thing is definitely we should talk to people in the community and find out where they are, find out who they are that can help and give input, and bring those people into the city council and listen to them.
All right, next question will be for Senator Miller. Senator Miller, are you a leader or a representative?
I would say to you that in certain areas you lead, but most of the time we have people with certain expertise in certain areas, and you ought to listen to them. I spend a lot of my time in education and healthcare. I don't really know a whole lot about agriculture, so I depend on people from the southern part of the state. I'm not really an engineer like the gentleman next to me, so from a transportation standpoint, I listen to folks in those areas. You can learn a lot more by listening than talking. And not that I've been known to always practice that, but as I look at my wife out here staring at me right now. But again, I think you have to take initiative on things that really matter. You know, we wouldn't have the cities here if people hadn't taken initiative within the communities, within the legislature. And so I think it depends upon the particular issue. I led on the bill this past year, for example, on savings accounts for kids with disabilities. That's probably one of the best things we've done down in the legislature for a long time. 529 type plans. So
Give us the 10-second overview of exactly what that bill does.
Well, basically what you do, if you have a 529 plan for college, where you put money aside and the monies that come out are tax-free, this is for people with disabilities. The federal government, once we're capped at $2,000, people can't live on that. And the biggest fear I heard over the years from people that were 70 years old, what happens to my 40-year-old child when I die? And now they can establish accounts of up to almost $250,000, and it'll give them additional resources for education, transportation, medical, et cetera. So it's a good thing. If we're not helping the people that can't help themselves, then what are we doing down there?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. We are back to House District 95. This question will be posed for Mr. Lowe. Where do you stand on campus carry? Because it's probably coming up again.
Yeah. Well, you know, that also I'm very disappointed with the veto. You know, it's my belief that, you know, we have the right to bear arms. We have the right to go get a permit to carry a concealed weapon. I mean, the bill clearly stated you had to be 21 years old or older. Tennessee has a similar bill. It's just for the faculty and staff for it as well. And I think at the end of the day, you look at this and you say, well, why wouldn't you allow these kids to be able to defend themselves? We're not saying it's going to be 18-year-olds. It's going to be 21 years or older. They have to go through the process to do it. So allow these children the opportunity to defend themselves. Look, we live in a society that terrorism is very real. And I have 4 daughters, and I tell you right now, if my 4 daughters went through a gun class and they said to them, and they said, Daddy, I want to carry a gun at school to protect myself, I'd say, absolutely. I want you to protect yourself. And I would certainly go back to the legislation and try to push that through again next year.
Thank you. Mr. Hilton, 30 seconds.
Yeah, since I responded on campus carry, I'll actually address the Georgia fair tax issue. My opponent is very good and very slick at sound bites. Explaining it, not so much. Let me give you the details. We've been talking about the Georgia fair tax for the last 20 years. In that time, the state budget has grown from $11 billion to $23 billion. We don't have a revenue problem. We have an expense problem. Do you all in this room feel like you're $12 billion better off in Georgia? I don't think so. So what I'm going to do when I get down there is roll up my sleeves and use my finance expertise to address the expense side.